The laughter started before she even spoke. It rippled through the training yard like a careless wind, bouncing off steel boots, dusty uniforms, and the sun-bleached walls of Fort Reading. Dozens of recruits stood in loose formation, sweat darkening their collars, rifles slung awkwardly across shoulders, still learning discipline. When the transport truck door slammed open and she stepped down, the sound cut through the morning like a misplaced joke. She was smaller than most of them. Not weak, just compact. Lean, built like someone who ran far rather than lifted heavy. Her uniform looked new, too clean, creases still sharp. The name patch read Reyes. A few heads turned. Someone snorted. Is this a joke? One voice muttered. Another followed, louder. She lost or something. A ripple of chuckles followed. The drill sergeant hadn't even noticed yet. He was busy chewing out a private for an uneven salute, but the recruits noticed. They always did. Reyes ignored them. She stepped forward, boots hitting the gravel with steady precision, eyes straight ahead. No hesitation, no wandering glances, the kind of walk that came from habit, not confidence, or maybe from something deeper than both. When the drill sergeant finally turned, his bark died mid-sentence. He looked her over once. Twice. Recruit, he snapped. You late? No, Sergeant, Reyes replied. Calm, even, not loud, but clear. He checked his clipboard, frowned, then waved her into the formation. Fall in. Try to keep up. A smirk passed through the line. Someone whispered, she won't last a week. Another added, bet she cries by lunch. Reyes stood at attention, face unreadable. What none of them noticed, not the recruits, not the drill sergeant, was the faint outline beneath her sleeve when the sun shifted just right. A shadow of ink near her left shoulder. Old, faded, hidden on purpose. Training began like it always did. Brutal, relentless, designed to strip away comfort and expose weakness. The drills were merciless. Push-ups in the dirt until arms shook. Sprints under the rising heat. Obstacle courses that scraped skin and pride alike. Reyes didn't stand out at first. That was the strange part. She wasn't the fastest. She wasn't the strongest. But she never stopped. When others slowed, she kept pace. When knees buckled, she adjusted her stride. When a recruit collapsed during a long run, gasping and panicked, Reyes was the one who slowed just enough to keep him moving, not touching him, not helping in any obvious way, just staying close until he found his rhythm again. Why'd you do that? He whispered later, fear still in his eyes. She shrugged. No one finishes alone. Word spread slowly. Still, the laughter didn't stop. During weapons training, someone joked that she'd drop her rifle. During hand-to-hand drills, a larger recruit rolled his eyes when paired with her. This'll be easy, he said, grinning. The grin didn't last long. Reyes didn't overpower him. She redirected. Every move economical, precise. When he charged, she stepped aside. When he swung, she controlled the joint. The match ended with him flat on his back, staring at the sky, lungs burning. The instructor frowned. Where'd you learn that? Reyes paused. Prior experience. Care to explain? No, sir. The instructor studied her for a moment, then nodded. Fall back. The laughter faded, just a little. At night, the barracks buzzed with stories. Bragging. Complaints. Predictions about who would wash out next. Reyes sat on her bunk, quietly cleaning her boots. She said little. When she did speak, it was usually to ask a question, not about rules, but about people. Why'd you enlist? She asked one night. A recruit shrugged. Family tradition. Another said, college money. Someone else laughed. Didn't want a desk job. They turned to her. What about you, Reyes? She paused, cloth still in her hand. To finish something, she said. No one asked what. 2 weeks in, the first evaluation arrived. A simulated combat exercise in the wooded training grounds beyond the base. Teams assigned. Objectives unclear by design. Confusion intentional. Reyes was placed in Bravo team. Their leader was confident, too confident. He dismissed her suggestions, brushed off her quiet observations about terrain and sidelines. We follow the plan, he said. Simple. The plan failed within minutes. An ambush from the left flank. Smoke, shouting, disorientation. Reyes moved without waiting for orders. She pulled one recruit behind cover just as simulated fire cracked overhead. She signaled another to move, using hand gestures so subtle they barely registered, but they worked. By the time the instructors called a halt, Bravo team was the only unit still intact. The debrief was silent. The captain leading the exercise stared at his notes, then up at Reyes. You ever been in combat? He asked. No, sir. A pause. You move like you have. Reyes met his gaze. I move like I was taught. That night, the colonel arrived. Colonel James Harlan was a legend, not the loud kind, but the quiet, dangerous sort. Decorated, respected, a man whose presence shifted a room's gravity. He was there to observe, to evaluate potential candidates for advanced placement. He stood at the edge of the training yard the next morning, arms folded, eyes sharp. The recruits felt him before they saw him. Drills intensified, mistakes multiplied. Reyes didn't look at him, not directly. But she knew he was there. During a break, the sun beat down mercilessly. Recruits loosened collars, wiped sweat from brows. Reyes rolled her sleeves slightly higher, exposing more skin to the air. That's when it happened. The colonel's gaze caught the ink. Just a glimpse, a symbol. His breath caught. He stepped forward without realizing it. Recruit, he barked. The entire yard froze. Reyes turned, snapped to attention. Sir. He approached slowly, eyes locked on her arm. Roll up your sleeve, he said quietly. Confusion rippled through the formation. Reyes hesitated, just a fraction of a second, then obeyed. The tattoo was old, weathered, a unit insignia so rare it wasn't taught anymore. Black ink softened by time, but unmistakable. The colonel went pale. No one laughed now. He stared as if seeing a ghost. Where did you get that? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Reyes didn't flinch. It was earned, sir. Silence swallowed the yard. The colonel straightened slowly. At ease, he said, not just to her, but to everyone. And in that moment, every single person there understood one thing. They had been laughing at someone they did not understand. And the story behind that tattoo had not yet begun. The training yard remained frozen long after the colonel lowered his hand. No one spoke. No one breathed too loudly. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether it was allowed to move anymore. Colonel James Harlan stood inches from recruit Reyes, his eyes fixed on the faded tattoo now fully exposed on her upper arm. It wasn't just ink, it was history, a sigil burned into memory, a mark belonging to a unit that officially never existed. A unit erased from records, buried under classified files and folded flags. A unit whose members were spoken of only in whispers among the highest ranks. Harlan swallowed. Cover it, he said quietly. Reyes rolled her sleeve down without question. The colonel turned to the drill sergeant. Dismiss the recruits, now. But sir, now. The order cut through the air like steel. As the formation broke, whispers erupted. Fear replaced curiosity. The laughter from earlier weeks felt like something done in another lifetime. Reyes remained where she was. Recruit Reyes, Harlan said, voice steady again, professional. Walk with me. They moved away from the yard, boots crunching on gravel. No escort, no ceremony. Just two soldiers walking side by side, one at the end of his career, the other pretending to be at the beginning. How old were you when you got that tattoo? He asked. 18, she replied. Harlan stopped walking. That's impossible, he said slowly. That unit was decommissioned before you were born. Reyes met his eyes for the first time. My mother was its last medic, she said. The words hit harder than gunfire. Harlan felt the world tilt. He remembered her now, not clearly. Time had blurred many faces, but the eyes were the same. Steady, observant, carrying too much weight for someone so young. She never told anyone, Reyes continued. She knew what silence meant. They reached the edge of the base, where the noise faded and the past felt closer. What's your mother's name? Harlan asked, though he already knew. Captain Elena Reyes. Harlan closed his eyes. Elena Reyes, the woman who stitched wounds under fire. Who stayed awake for 72 hours straight during the Black Valley extraction. Who refused evacuation until the last man was out. Who never made it home. She died saving my squad, Harlan said quietly. She died saving everyone, Reyes replied. Silence again, different this time, heavier. Why are you here? He asked. Because her story didn't end, Reyes said. And neither did mine. That night, Reyes was summoned to the command building. Inside, senior officers waited. Files lay open, screens glowed with redacted text and grainy images. Colonel Harlan stood at the head of the table. You weren't recruited, he said. You infiltrated. Yes, sir. Why? Because asking permission would have failed. A general leaned forward. You realize what you're claiming? Yes. You're saying you trained off-grid. With no formal backing. Yes. By who? Reyes hesitated. Then she spoke the truth. By the men who survived, she said. The ones your reports listed as missing. Shock rippled through the room. They found me after my mother's funeral, Reyes continued. They didn't want revenge. They wanted legacy. They trained me not to be a weapon, but a guardian. Harlan studied her carefully. You move like her, he said. But you think like them. Reyes nodded. A colonel cleared his throat. Why now? Because something is coming, Reyes said. And you're not prepared. The room went cold. She stepped forward and placed a drive on the table. Coordinates, names, timelines, she said. An operation that mirrors Black Valley, but bigger. They read in silence. Then one officer whispered, my God. Harlan straightened. You knew, he said. And you came, anyway. Reyes met his gaze. I came because laughing stops when truth arrives. 2 weeks later, Reyes was deployed. Not as a recruit, not officially at all. The mission was classified before it existed. A high-risk extraction in hostile territory. No backup, no margin for error. The team was elite, hardened veterans with scars older than Reyes herself. Some doubted her. Until the first firefight, Reyes moved through chaos like she belonged there. Not reckless, not flashy, every decision measured, every command clear. When the convoy hit an ambush, she didn't freeze. She adapted. When communications failed, she rerouted. When a soldier went down, she carried him, not dragging, not panicking, but with controlled urgency that saved his life. At one point, under heavy fire, a captain yelled, how do you know where they'll hit next? Reyes replied without looking back. Because I was raised by people who survived it. They completed the mission, all of them, something that hadn't happened in years. Back at base, the laughter was gone. The recruits stood straighter when Reyes passed. Some nodded, others avoided her gaze entirely. Colonel Harlan watched from a distance. She changed the room, someone said beside him. Harlan nodded. She reminded us, he said, that legacy isn't loud. Reyes never corrected anyone who called her, the recruit. She didn't need titles. The tattoo remained hidden, except when it mattered. And somewhere, beyond the noise of training yards and command rooms, a story long buried had been carried forward, not by medals or speeches, but by a woman who walked into laughter and left behind silence.